Lady Bird, Wonder Woman. There is a new kind of story that is being told.
At 77, Steven Spielberg has given us worlds we never imagined. From a mechanical shark that terrorized beaches to an alien who just wanted to phone home. From dinosaurs that walked the earth again to a soldier saving Private Ryan.
It's one of the most audacious films I've ever seen because it is a deeply detailed portrait.
But behind the lens of the man who taught us to dream lived a heart that beat for 6 women who shaped not just his films, but his very soul. There are directors, and then there are legends. Spielberg wasn't just Hollywood royalty. He was the storyteller every generation trusted, the visionary every filmmaker wanted to become. But behind the golden touch, behind the box office magic and the Academy Awards, lived a man haunted by love in all its forms. Love passionate and destructive. Love is steady and enduring. Love paternal and protective. Love is creative and inspiring. Love foundational and healing. And love that completed what was always missing. At 77, Spielberg finally revealed the 6 women who didn't just inspire his greatest films, but carved the very chambers of his heart. The actress who nearly destroyed him, the leading lady who saved him, the child star he couldn't protect, the creative soulmate who understood his vision, the mother who gave him eyes to see, and the daughter who completed his heart. These aren't Hollywood fairy tales. These are the hidden truths of cinema's greatest storyteller. 6. Jessica Capshaw. If Steven Spielberg's life was a film, Jessica Capshaw would be the redemptive third act. When he married Kate Capshaw in 1991,
and my mom fell in love with Steven, and I did too, and now they're married.
He didn't just gain a wife. He inherited a daughter who would teach him that the greatest stories aren't always the ones you write, but the ones you live. Jessica wasn't born a Spielberg, but she became one in every way that mattered. At 12 years old, she was the bridge between Steven's fractured past and his hopeful future. Here was a man who had spent decades exploring themes of broken families, absent fathers, and lost childhoods on screen. In Jessica, he found his chance to rewrite that story in real life. The adoption wasn't just legal paperwork. It was Steven's promise to break the cycle that had haunted him since his own parents' divorce. Where his father had been distant, Steven chose presence. Where Hollywood had stolen childhoods from so many young stars, he chose protection. Jessica represented everything he had learned about love from the 5 women who came before her. Watching her grow into a successful actress in her own right, starring in Grey's Anatomy for over a decade, Steven often spoke with quiet pride about the woman she became. She wasn't just his stepdaughter or even his adopted daughter. She was proof that sometimes the most important love stories aren't about passion or romance, but about choosing to be the parent you wished you'd had. For Spielberg, Jessica Capshaw wasn't just the daughter who completed his heart. She was the ending that made all his other stories make sense. 5. Leah Adler. Before Steven Spielberg became the master of cinematic emotion, there was Leah Adler, the former pianist whose own dreams were interrupted but never forgotten.
I sort of plunge into things in my life and see what happens. So far, it's worked. It worked with the kids, it worked with the restaurant.
She was his first storyteller, the woman who taught him that every frame, every moment, every heartbeat on screen had to matter because life itself was fleeting and precious. Leah wasn't just Steven's mother. She was his original creative partner, the woman who sat at the piano while young Steven experimented with his father's 8mm camera. Her music gave rhythm to his earliest films. Her encouragement gave wings to his impossible dreams. But their relationship was complicated by the very thing that would define his career, the theme of broken families. When Leah and Arnold divorced when Steven was 16, it shattered something fundamental in him. The woman who had nurtured his artistic soul had also introduced him to his first heartbreak. Every Spielberg film about fractured families, about children searching for home, about the complex love between mothers and sons, carried echoes of Leah's influence. She ran a kosher restaurant in Los Angeles for decades, serving matzo ball soup while her son served up dreams to the world. Steven often said she was tougher than any studio executive, more honest than any critic. When she passed in 2017 at 97, Steven lost not just his mother, but his moral compass. Leah Adler gave Steven more than life. She gave him the eyes to see that every story worth telling begins with understanding love's complexity, even when it breaks your heart. 4. Oprah Winfrey. In 1985, when Steven Spielberg cast an unknown talk show host named Oprah Winfrey in The Color Purple,
As she bankroled off from, Sherry Lansing, many years, was the final word at Paramount Pictures.
Hollywood thought he had lost his mind. She had never acted professionally, never stood before a movie camera, never carried the weight of a major motion picture. But Spielberg saw something in her that the industry missed. He saw a storyteller who understood pain, resilience, and the transformative power of human connection. Oprah wasn't just an actress in The Color Purple. She was Steven's creative soulmate, a woman who understood that the most important stories are the ones that heal. Where others saw entertainment, they both saw medicine. Where others saw box office potential, they both saw the chance to change hearts. Their collaboration went deeper than director and performer. Steven found in Oprah someone who shared his belief that storytelling could save lives, that movies weren't just escapes but awakenings. She brought authenticity to Sophia that no trained actress could have delivered because she had lived the struggle, felt the strength, knew the survival. The film earned Oprah an Academy Award nomination, but more importantly, it forged a friendship that lasted decades. They became champions of each other's work, understanding that their shared mission was bigger than Hollywood success. Both had risen from difficult childhoods to become voices for the voiceless. For Spielberg, Oprah represented artistic fearlessness. She showed him that the most powerful performances come not from technique, but from truth, not from acting, but from being courageously, authentically human. 3. Drew Barrymore. When 7-year-old Drew Barrymore walked onto the set of E.T. in 1981, Steven Spielberg saw magic.
No, I loved it.
You loved it.
And Robin Williams came with Steven Spielberg, and they were there for me on
For
that
support.
show.
Her natural charm, her fearless spirit, her ability to make an alien puppet feel like family, it was everything his film needed. But what Steven couldn't see was the darkness already creeping into her young life, a darkness that would haunt him for decades. Drew wasn't just another child actor to Steven. She became the daughter he worried about, the little girl whose laughter on set masked a world spiraling out of control. By age 9, she was drinking. By 11, she was using drugs. By 13, she was in rehab, and Steven felt like he had failed her completely. He tried everything: phone calls, interventions, offering guidance that felt too little, too late. Here was a man who could control every frame of a film, who could make audiences believe in aliens and dinosaurs, but he couldn't save one little girl from Hollywood's predatory machine. Drew's addiction became Steven's reminder that not every story has a happy ending. Not every lost child finds their way home. Years later, when Drew rebuilt her life and career, she often spoke of Steven's unwavering support, but for him, her struggle remained a wound that never quite healed. She represented everything he feared about the industry he loved, the way it could devour innocence and spit out broken dreams. Drew Barrymore taught Steven Spielberg that sometimes love isn't enough, and that lesson broke something in him that never fully mended. 2. Kate Capshaw. After the chaos of his first marriage, Steven Spielberg thought he was done with love on movie sets. Then came Kate Capshaw, auditioning for Indiana Jones in the Temple of Doom in 1983.
Thank you, time's up. We were very much on board from the very beginning, my wife Kate and I.
She wasn't the most experienced actress and wasn't the studio's first choice. But when Steven watched her screen test, he saw something that had nothing to do with acting and everything to do with destiny. Kate was different from the Hollywood women who had orbited his world. She was grounded, genuine, unimpressed by his fame. On the Temple of Doom set in Sri Lanka, while other cast members complained about the heat and conditions, Kate adapted, laughed, and somehow made the impossible locations feel like home. Steven found himself falling not for a movie star, but for a woman who could find joy in chaos. Their courtship wasn't a Hollywood fairy tale. It was real, sometimes messy, always honest. Kate came with her own life, her own daughter Jessica, her own dreams that didn't revolve around being Steven Spielberg's girlfriend. That independence drew him in deeper than any performance ever could. When they married in 1991, Kate didn't just become his wife. She became his creative partner, his anchor, the woman who helped him build the stable family life his films had always yearned for. Together, they raised 7 children, creating the loud, loving household that became Stephen's greatest production. Kate Capshaw taught Stephen that the best love stories aren't scripted. They're lived, one ordinary, extraordinary day at a time. 1. Amy Irving. Before Steven Spielberg became the undisputed king of Hollywood, before the empire and the legend, there was Amy Irving.
I just loved the fact that she was uncensored that way. And she was an extremely warm person. She just invited you to...
She was his first taste of real love in the glittering, treacherous world of show business, and she nearly destroyed him in the most beautiful way possible. Amy wasn't just another actress when they met in the late 1970s. She came from theatrical royalty, the daughter of director Jules Irving, with a pedigree that matched Stephen's rising ambition. She was classically trained, intellectually fierce, and dangerously captivating. For Stephen, who had spent his youth behind cameras instead of chasing girls, Amy was revelation and education wrapped in one intoxicating package. Their relationship was a masterclass in passion and volatility. They were together, then apart, then together again, like a film that couldn't find its ending. Amy challenged Stephen in ways no one ever had. She questioned his choices, pushed his boundaries, and refused to be impressed by his growing fame. Where others saw the golden boy of Hollywood, Amy saw a man who needed to dig deeper, feel more, risk everything for his art. Their brief marriage from 1985 to 1989 coincided with Stephen's most creative period, but it was also his most turbulent. Amy wanted a partner, not a legend. Stephen wanted support, not interrogation. When their divorce was finalized, it cost him $100 million, making headlines worldwide. But the real cost wasn't financial. Amy Irving had shown Stephen what love could be when two artists collided, raw and uncompromising and utterly consuming. She was the fire that forged him and the storm that nearly swept him away. Every relationship that followed would be measured against the intensity Amy brought to his life. The woman who loved him before he became untouchable and left him understanding that sometimes the greatest love stories are the ones that don't survive. At 77, Steven Spielberg's legacy isn't just his films, but the women who taught him to see with his heart. From Amy's fire to Kate's calm, from Drew's fragility to Oprah's strength, each left her mark on cinema's greatest storyteller. Which story moved you most? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more Hollywood's hidden truths.